President Nicolas Maduro led an event this Friday in defense of peace and sovereignty of Venezuela, Latin America, and the Caribbean. And in Peru, the families of victims of the armed conflict that ravaged the country between 1980 and 2000 mobilized in opposition to the amnesty law for military and police personnel. The United Nations Security Council will convene an emergency meeting on August 26 to address issues regarding the investigation on Nord Stream sabotage at the request of Russia. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. On Friday in Venezuela, President Nicolas Maduro led a political event in Caracas for defense of peace and sovereignty of Venezuela, Latin America, and the Caribbean. The ceremony was held at the Federal Legislative Palace, where the Bolivarian president condemned the U.S. aggression and threats that seek to destabilize the nation. During his address, President Maduro also affirmed that any aggression against a country of the region represents a threat to Latin American and Caribbean nations as a whole. In the face of the U.S. threats, the Venezuelan head of state called for courage, national unity, and to overcome all minor differences and political colors in the country, since all Venezuelans live under the same flag.
It is not time for political differences nor colors. A single flag is protecting us, yellow, blue, and red, and this homeland will be untouched. No one will touch Venezuela.
In this regard, President Maduro expressed his complete willingness to defend the revolution and sacrifice whatever is necessary for its sovereignty.
Homeland will be, at this point, what is going to inspire us in the history and go and support us in our action to consolidate national independence. On my behalf, I am ready to sacrifice everything in the homeland's altar, everything.
Meanwhile, a new study conducted by Country Monitor pollster reveals that the majority of Venezuelans perceive strength and stability in the government of President Nicolas Maduro. The survey also shows a clear dominance of the United Socialist Party of Venezuela in the people's political preferences and disapproval of the media narrative that presents Chavismo as a minority. Below, a complete analysis of the poll's results. Regarding the perception of strength, 78% of Venezuelans disagree with those who claim that President Maduro is weaker than ever, and only 12% agree with this narrative. In relation to perceived stability, 83% reject the idea that the fall of the government is getting closer, and against only 9% who agree it is. Venezuelans do not perceive the political instability projected by external analysis. As on the popularity of political organizations, the study concludes that 69% of respondents consider the United Socialist Party of Venezuela is the most popular political party in Venezuela, while the opposition only gets 6%. 25% did not choose any or said they don't know. Finally, on the question of citizens' self-identification, it confirms that 50% of Venezuelans identify themselves as Chavista, who support Maduro. 39% did not identify with any, and only 6% sided with the opposition. And representatives of different organizations, the Venezuelan chapter of ALBA Movimientos, held a press conference Friday in support of Venezuela's sovereignty. The activists gathered in the center of the capital, Caracas, to declare their support to the government of President Nicolas Maduro, highlighting their commitment to defend democracy and national sovereignty. On the other hand, the organizations also expressed their solidarity with the Palestinian people, who are victims of aggressions by the Zionist Israeli regime with the support of the West. The movement rejected Washington's financial support to groups linked to drug trafficking and international terrorism. And the U.S. Weather Service issued Friday a flood warning across the nation's east coast due to the effects of Category 3 Hurricane Erin. New Jersey authorities issued Thursday a state of emergency in preparation for the storm, which brought coastal flooding and hazardous surf conditions to the region. According to local media, crews rescued at least 50 people from cars, bars, and restaurants amid flooding in Margate City on the Jersey Shore. Erin moved northeast after battering several East Coast states with coast flooding and life-threatening riptides. This comes after Hurricane Erin hit North Carolina's Outer Banks with strong winds and waves. Several areas along the East Coast issued swim bans through Friday, including New York City. And in Peru, the coordinator of the Tigre River Basin in Loreto, Cesar Moreno Culqui, requested that a health emergency be declared in the Tigre River Basin, the Nanay River Basin, and the Corrientes River Basin due to environmental pollution.
She is quite concerned about all the information I have provided her with. At this time, she is going to submit a report to her senior management. I have suggested that they declare a health emergency in the Tigre River Basin, the Nanay River Basin, and exceptionally the Corrientes River Basin, because 2 days ago the mayor issued a statement expressing his support for the measures taken in the area.
We now have our first break coming up. Remember, you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English. You'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. Families of victims of the armed conflict that ravaged Peru between 1980 and 2000 mobilized in opposition to the amnesty law for military and police personnel enacted by President Dina Boluarte. Hundreds of people and activists gathered in front of Lima's Palace of Justice to demand that the amnesty law should not be applied to the law enforcement agencies involved in the Peruvian internal conflict, which left at least 70,000 dead. According to human rights organizations, the law could benefit at least 900 military and police officers, including several generals, and leave them without criminal charges. In Honduras, President Xiomara Castro led the commemoration of the 12th anniversary of the military police of public order in the town of Francisco Morazan in the central region of the country. Accompanied by the Chief of the Joint Staff of the Armed Forces, the President presented an award in recognition of the dedication, commitment, and willingness of officers, non-commissioned officers, troops, and auxiliary personnel. She announced the approval of the 2029 Zero Deforestation Plan, which is being implemented by the security forces in the Plátano River Biosphere Reserve and in protected areas in the east of the country. The President assured that so far in 2025, there have been no homicides in 106 municipalities.
In 106 municipalities in Honduras, 36% of the national territory did not record a single homicide in 2025. This is clear evidence that we are reclaiming the areas that were previously controlled by organized crime, which operated freely under the previous regime.
Meanwhile, in Argentina, there are more people living on the streets. Until 2023, there were around 9,000, but today the number exceeds 12,000. In the absence of government support, organizations are emerging that effectively help those people regain their lives and their dignity. Our colleague Fabián Restivo with details.
Talking about people living on the streets in Argentina is complex because it touches on several issues. Some of these people approach various institutions with different needs and interests. Melissa Heckliner, from the Multipolar Foundation, explains.
Today, we estimate that there are more than 12,000 people living on the streets. The last population census was conducted a few years ago and showed that there were more than 9,000 people living on the street, but that was 2.5 years ago.
The Multipolar Foundation guides those who are trying to get their lives back on track, and the network of institutions is essential for this.
What we do is work with that portion of the population that is living on the street and is in a position to start thinking about working. Each group we work with is renewed every 2 or 3 months and consists of 25 people.
There are steps to take before reaching the workshops, but where do you start with those who have just arrived? Nestor Santi, social worker, speaks from his experience.
Las personas que llegan acá
People who come here are looking for a little
un poco de
love, tenderness,
cariño,
and hope,
ternura,
because they are pretty broken. I mean,
porque estamos
life on the
tanto
outside is pretty
digo, el
hostile.
exterior es bastante hostil.
Pero no hay un patrón. Vienen de las
But there
calles
is
de
no
Buenos
pattern,
Aires,
they
que
come from the
bien
streets
ganada
of Buenos
tienen
Aires,
fama de
which
ser
well
la
deserves its
ciudad de la
reputation as the city of
Cada
fury,
vida,
and
cada
every
día.
life is a universe.
Quien está en calle, normalmente está en calle hace bastante tiempo.
Those who are homeless
Como
have
nuevas-
usually been
nuevas
homeless for
personas,
quite
cada
some
vez más
time.
personas en
Lately,
situación de calle,
there are
pero
more and
vivir
more
hace
people
rato
living on the
en un
streets,
recorrido
but those who
institucional
have
se
been
encuentran con
there
personas
for
que
a
del
while
otro
in an
lado,
institutional
quienes los
setting
atienden,
encounter
no hay
people who, on the
empatía,
other side, those who serve them, there is no empathy, they are badly
reciben como
treated,
mucho maltrato,
there is no
no hay
gender
perspectiva de género.
perspective. That
A
is
eso
what
me
I
refiero
mean
con
when
hablar
I
de
talk about
violencia,
violence.
como
They
ser
are being a
ellos,
number,
terminan
a
siendo un
statistics,
número,
and
una
people
estadística,
forget that they are
y se
people
olvidan de que
with a
son personas
story,
con
with a
historias, con una
life.
vida.
Una persona que está en la calle no está en la calle porque quiere. A nadie le gusta dormir a la intemperie.
A person who
a
is
nadie
on
le
the
gusta
street
tener que
is
estar
not there
saliendo todos
because
los
they
días a
want to be
comer
there.
o buscar
No
un
one
lugar
likes to
donde
sleep outside. No one
cobijarse
likes to have
para
to
poder
decide
dormir.
every day what to eat or look for a place to sleep.
Entender
It
que,
is
estar en la
important
calle es una sucesión
to
de
understand that
distintas-
being on the
de
streets
distintos
is
hechos
the
que
result
atraviesan la
of
vida
a
de una
series
persona
of
que lo
events
llevan a
in a
quedarse
person's
solo, que lo
life
llevan a quedarse
that
sin
lead
red de contención,
them to
pero
be alone,
además sin-
without a
sin
support
esta
network,
posibilidad
without the
de,
possibility of feeling
sentirse
worthy
dignos
of
de
an
recibir una
opportunity.
oportunidad.
Cuando el Estado se ausenta y deja de atender las
When the state
necesidades
is
de la
absent
gente,
and fails to meet the
alguien de la
needs of the
sociedad
people,
busca caminos
someone
para
in society
recomponer a
looks
esas
for ways to
personas,
help those people,
creándoles un
creating a
espacio
space that
que les
restores their
devuelva la
humanity,
humanidad,
based,
partiendo,
of
claro,
course,
de la
on
comprensión.
understanding.
Eso es lo complejo
That is the complexity
de
of
poder
understanding the
comprender la
situation
situación
on
de
the street.
calle.
On the street, it is
La
not
calle
those who
no
want to
está
be
el
there,
que
but
quiere,
those who
sino el
can
que
be there in the
puede,
negative
en el mal
sense.
sentido.
Desde Buenos Aires para Telesur, Fabián Restivo.
In Colombia, the fifth summit of the Amazon Cooperation Treaty Organization ended Friday in Bogota with proposals aimed at protecting and preserving the Amazon territory. The meeting was attended by Colombian President Gustavo Petro, Bolivian President Luis Arce, and Brazilian President Luis Inácio Lula Silva, as well as foreign ministers and international delegations from Amazon countries. The event's debates were focused on the reduction of greenhouse gases, as well as the deforestation that threatens the Amazon. The summit also brought together native leaders of the region who participated in reaching an agreement to protect the border zones.
Colombia, soy absolutamente solidario.
I am absolutely sympathetic to the statement of the Amazonian indigenous communities about the fact that there can be no hydrocarbon exploitation and extraction in the Amazon jungle, because otherwise we would be evading the problem.
Porque si no, estamos evadiendo el problema.
For his part, Bolivian President Luis Arce announced a project to preserve the knowledge of indigenous communities and ancestors of the Amazon.
As countries, I believe we face the challenge of creating not only an institute, but also an Amazonian university to preserve all the scientific knowledge of our indigenous peoples to generate sustainability. It's a challenge that the indigenous peoples of Bolivia tax on, and we will launch all the necessary measures, and we believe that we also must there to work together, all the Amazon countries, to crystallize the dreams that our indigenous brothers and sisters have about the Amazon.
And Brazilian President Luis Inácio Lula Silva announced that he will inaugurate the Amazon International Police Cooperation Center in Manaus, Amazonas, as part of the meeting of leaders of the Amazon Cooperation Treaty Organization in Colombia. President Lula affirmed that collective responses are needed to the challenges shared by the 8 Amazonian countries, and that with this objective in mind, the Amazon International Police Cooperation Center will be inaugurated with the aim of intensifying the fight against organized crime and environmental crimes. Similarly, the president pointed out that in the last 2 years, intergovernmental action networks have been established in areas such as forest management, fire management, water monitoring, and health services. We now have our second break. Before we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English, there you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverage, and much more. Follow our page and activate the notification button to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. The final short break, don't go away. Welcome back. The United Nations Security Council will convene an emergency meeting on August 26 to address the sabotage of the Nord Stream gas pipelines at the request of Russia. The session is in response to the arrest of a suspect linked to the September 2022 attack. Russia's acting permanent representative to the UN, Dmitry Polyansky, announced that the country will highlight the delays in the German investigation and its lack of transparency during the meeting. On August 21st, Italian police arrested Sergei Kuznetsov, a 49-year-old Ukrainian citizen, under a European arrest warrant issued by Germany. German prosecutors accused him of coordinating a group that placed explosives in the Nord Stream 1 and 2 gas pipelines near the Danish island of Bornholm. Hungary and Slovakia filed a formal complaint with the European Commission on Thursday due to the third attack by Ukraine on the Druzhba oil pipeline in southeast Russia, the main oil supply route for both countries. Foreign ministers Peter Sijarto and Juraj Blanar warned that the interruption in the flow of crude oil could last at least 5 days, raising concerns about energy security in the region. They noted that the recent attacks, which had already temporarily stopped supplies on several occasions, represent a direct threat to the stability of Hungary and Slovakia. In addition, officials recalled that the European Union had committed itself to protect the critical energy infrastructure of its member states and demanded that these promises should be fulfilled immediately. The Israeli occupation regime refused to allow foreign medical teams to enter the Gaza Strip. According to local media, Israeli troops denied entry to 2 health workers from the United States and France who were ultimately informed that they could not access the Palestinian enclave. Medical staff point out that their protests against Israeli actions to the media contributed to their being barred from entering Gaza. The doctors said that the ban was also due to the fact that Zionism does not want doctors to reveal what is happening inside the Gaza Strip due to its expansionist plans. And in Yemen, thousands took to the streets of Sana'a to condemn Israel's plans to occupy Gaza. The rally, which has become a weekly event, seeks to denounce the escalation of violence in the Gaza Strip, where the Israeli offensive has caused a humanitarian crisis. Participants blame the U.S. government for its complicity in Israel's aggression. In this sense, demonstrators call on the international community to exert pressure to put an end to the Israeli genocide in Gaza and to stop the Trump administration's support for the Tel Aviv regime. And in the United Kingdom, hundreds of protesters gathered in front of the Israeli embassy in London and demonstrated to denounce the new ground offensive by the Israeli occupation forces seeking to control the city of Gaza. Protesters waving Palestinian flags accused Israeli forces of committing war crimes and crimes against humanity against the Palestinian people. The participants demanded an immediate end to the war and that the Israeli authorities be held accountable for what they consider to be crimes of genocide. Protesters accused the British government of being an accomplice to the tragedy in the enclave. They demand that it suspend military cooperation and expel the Israeli ambassador. In China, more than 5,300 works from 126 countries and territories were received for the second edition of the Golden Panda Film Awards. The event organizers specified that of these, more than 3,900 are foreign productions, representing 73% of the total number of submissions. This film celebration will be held on September 12th and 13th in the city of Chengdu, Sichuan province, under the slogan "Encounter with Beauty Through Light and Shadow." The ceremony will present a total of 27 awards in the categories of feature films, television series, documentaries, and animation. The event will also include cultural forums and exchange activities with filmmakers from other nations, with the aim of promoting a spirit of unity in diversity. Like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. So join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For Telesur English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.